Hi guys, it's Heather at Homeschool Culture, and today I'm going to do a tips video with you. So this is going to be definitely for new homeschool moms, but also I think it's going to be for you ventured moms and seasoned moms as well. I am calling this whole series Homeschool Chat, and really it's just me coming on here and chatting with y'all. Hopefully y'all will chat down below in the comment section, give advice to each other, ask questions from each other. Of course, I will chime in as well and try to answer some of those questions. But just remember, anything I say on here is coming from the perspective of our household and our homeschool experience. And there's so many different ways to homeschool, and there's so many different circumstances and seasons in life and things like that. So my biggest advice to you, and this, I don't even know if this is considered a tip, but just know that what works for one doesn't work for another. And then also what you do in your homeschool could eventually change. Like it could be working today and not working tomorrow. And so your homeschool really is ever evolving through this whole experience. So I did write down notes as always. And so I'm going to go ahead and jump in. I don't want this to be super long. But before I do, please hit that like button if you end up finding value in this. And then also please subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so. Through these homeschool chats, I'm going to be discussing some of the various stuff. So this one I probably should have done this one first, although I do have one right before it on scheduling. I'm going to go into more detail on future videos in this homeschool chat series. So, okay, the first thing is tip number one, and these are just tips to ponder. Try not to make your homeschool public school. Coming from a public school background, I definitely did in the beginning. So I talked about this in my scheduling video. I tried to schedule the day out, like almost like a bell schedule. Now I say try not to. I need to backtrack, because if it works for you and your family, then absolutely do it. But if you notice that, I guess I'm going to it from the perspective of don't assume it has to look like that. So if you're doing it and it works, then keep doing it. But if you're doing it and you're like, this really isn't working, I feel like it isn't necessary, then it's probably not for your family. So just think about it like that. Another thing to think of and not making it public school-like is your courses. The courses do not have to line up unless you're in a state, I apologize, but unless you're in a state where it specifically says you have to line up with their teaching objectives, then it does not have to line up with the public school system. So just things to think about on that too. So if you know your nephew is doing this over here in 4th grade and your son's in 4th grade and y'all aren't doing that yet, don't worry about it. Y'all will get to it. You're obviously probably doing things that the cousin in public school is not doing. So just think about it like that. This is my number one thing that I love about it. Allowing your child to slow down and enjoy learning. I feel like in the public school system, they get rush. They rush through way too quick on kids, and that's why kids fall through the cracks, because they're not ready sometimes for that level math or that level reading, etc. So just slow down and go at your kids' pace and enjoy the process and let them enjoy it. And just because they might be someone who struggles with reading or struggles with math, and it doesn't necessarily mean they'll always struggle. They just maybe are a late bloomer in those areas. That doesn't mean that they don't want to learn other things. And so you can add so much joy to your homeschool by figuring out what kind of things they like to learn about and focusing on those things. And not just what they want to learn about, but what you want to learn about. If you're excited about a subject area, they will be too. Okay, another thing is, and I see this a lot on Homeschool, and it kind of goes into my tip number 2, is your homeschool space. It is okay if you want your homeschool space to look like a schoolroom. So I've seen some homeschool parents on here, or homeschool mamas mostly on here, saying, we don't have a homeschool room, or we do it here, or we do it there. Do what works for you and what brings you joy. And so what brings you joy is dedicating a space to homeschool and putting up colorful posters and getting desks and doing all that, do it if that brings you joy. Especially in those younger years. I mean, when I first started this, my daughter was going into 3rd grade. My son was like pre-K age. And of course I had those colorful posters, and I was trying to make the room vibrant and very colorful. And it brought us joy, and it brought my kids joy. So I enjoyed that. As we evolved, it's changed a little, but you'll notice, well, besides the fact that this is black, we still do a lot of colors and stuff like that in our homeschool space. What we don't necessarily do is always homeschool in the homeschool room, which is that door right there. This is what I call my homeschool or my morning basket nook. I actually have a video showing y'all this. And that's another thing I will say. Some people want to condense their homeschool space to one area. Some families, their whole house is homeschool space, you know, things like that. And so you, again, make it work for you. My third one is take time to research how your child learns. So there's something out there called learning styles, and I will do a whole video on this, and it's visual, auditory, like reading, writing, and kinesthetic, tactile. And there's some things going on the internet right now saying that those are myths, that's not how people learn, etc. But that's really not true in my opinion, coming from someone that has seen their own kids, someone that experiences it, someone that's seen, you know, hundreds, if not thousands of kids go through the education system. We do lean towards a specific learning style. Now, and certain topics lean towards a specific learning style. If we're talking about geography, then of course you're going to want to have maps. You don't want just books of just paragraph after paragraph, right? You want to have maps and things like that. And so it's really just that looking at those different learning styles and get away from all the stuff that talks about them being myths and stuff. I think they're trying to come across is that instead of trying to have your, you know, if like for instance, you might be like, well, I'm a visual learner. And I am too. I'm kind of like a visual, auditory, not kinesthetic. And my kids are a variation of all. But it doesn't mean that in life they won't have opportunity to learn all of those different ways, or maybe only one certain way. They might go into a field where, you know, they're handed a binder and say, you need to learn this. And that might not be their learning style, but that's how they're having to do it. So I think the new trend of the learning styles and myth is more about the fact that in life, it's not necessarily, we don't get to pick and choose, if that makes sense. I'm gonna do a video on that for sure, because I think learning styles is definitely beneficial, but I'm gonna kind of take it maybe a different way than some others might look at it currently. And that was number 3. And you're really doing that not just for yourself, but for your students, right? And for the content. So tip number 4 would be you might want to start researching teaching philosophies. So if you're brand new to homeschool, you're like, I don't even know what you're talking about, Heather. I didn't necessarily either. All of a sudden I started listening to podcasts and looking at YouTube videos and reading books. And I heard like, there's this thing called Charlotte Mason. And I already heard Montessori before, but there's some unit study and Thomas Jefferson and classical and traditional, of course, is more school-like. I think there's going to be some purists, meaning they are pure classical, pure Charlotte Mason or whatever. But most of us are pretty eclectic. And so it's fun to research them because you get to draw and pick what strengths from each one there is, or which things work best for, again, what works best for your family. So I would highly suggest watch. I actually think I have one video on it from years ago from my other channel, but it is down in the playlist on my channel. And then there's tons of other stuff. Definitely listen to podcasts and then also other YouTube channels, of course, will have it as well. And then books. Books are good. Okay, so that's something to think about. Tip number 5, because your kiddos are going to be different. So I only have 2 kids and they are complete opposites. And so what happened was I went in and I purchased all this curriculum, and I was like, telling my daughter, be very gentle. Don't write in it. I'm going to reuse it. I'm going to save money. I'm going to make this work for us. And then I started using, and then my son came along, completely different child, completely different ability levels, and it didn't work for us. And so I ended up having to, well, first off, I ended up going in, and this is going to happen. I'm just going to forewarn you. You're going to start a curriculum and you're going to find out potentially early on that they're not getting it. And sometimes it's actually the curriculum, meaning that is not the best case scenario for them. Example, Saxon math is a spiral approach. Math UC is a mastery approach. And my child, who is my older child, does great with spiral. My younger child does great with mastery. But I had my youngest in spiral for many years before I finally was like, this isn't working. Because I was so like, we're just going to use this. We already have it and I've already paid for it. And that was actually a hindrance. And I feel like he's behind in math mainly because of my choices in curriculum. So I almost don't even want to say that because I know it can be scary, but it's also reality. And I don't want to sugarcoat anything on this channel. There are great things about homeschool, and then there's things that you have to work through, just like all parts of life. So just throwing that out there for you. That was tip number 5. Tip number 6, which for some reason I don't even have on here, but I'm going to throw out real quick. Assessments. And I have talked about assessments or grading in a previous video that I did on here, and so I probably won't redo that one. But if you're wanting to know how we grade or different assessment types, when you were in school, you were given tests, but you don't necessarily have to do that in homeschool. I know like my son who has learning disabilities, like with written expression and things like that, he's not going to be able to express his knowledge to me if I only gave him pen and paper and said, here, you need to do this, or because of his reading ability, something like that. Versus if we discuss stuff and we watch, documentaries, and I read books to him and all of that, and I go back and I'm constantly going, we keep going over and over it. And then one day I sit down and I'm like, hey, tell me about XYZ. And he can, then I know that he's learning that material, and I didn't have to have him write it down in an essay form. There's a time and a place for that, but it doesn't have to be all the time. So just, I hope that came across. I hope that made sense, because I just really think some of us, sometimes especially prior teachers, but then some of us maybe that haven't been in education who are like, well, that's how I did it. And you just assume, or my kid's going to go to college, and in college they have tests, which I totally agree with. So you have to incorporate that eventually. But when they're younger and early on and truly are struggling learners, then that might not be the time yet. Okay, I think that's going to be number 6. Number 7 is a schedule. Get a routine, do what works best for you and your kiddos. Like, we're morning people, and so we get up early, we get things done, we get things going. By noon, my child and I, my youngest and I are done. My older, because she's in high school, is still working on a few things, and it gets tweaked every year. Just FYI, it truly gets tweaked every year. And just because the season of life, circumstances change. And that is the video I just put out before this one, which is officially the first homeschool chat. So if you want to go check that out, I go into greater detail on daily scheduling, semester, trimester, monthly, and yearly. Okay, curriculum. These are just tips that I have found along the way. My very first year, now granted, I was still working, and so my income was, or our family income was different because we had 2 incomes at the time. I went and I bought everything brand new. After that, I realized, whoa, that's expensive. And so I started buying things used, and I try to be diligent about what I buy used, and then I resell what I buy used. And again, I told you I always ask my daughter to be very gentle with hers. My son is, I'm probably doing less, not that we're not gentle with the used, but for her, she didn't write a bunch of stuff she didn't use like workbooks and write in the workbooks. I'm letting him do that, like consumables and things like that. And so you just do what works best for your child. Also, whenever you're researching curriculum, of course, come to YouTube and, blogs, things like that. Also, your other homeschool moms that you know. And I have tons of great homeschool moms that have let me borrow material that I can take home and visually look at for like a week. Is this going to work for us? Maybe even try it out a little bit. And then, be able to give it back to them if I decide to use it. Sometimes they let you borrow it. Sometimes, they just let me borrow it for a couple of days. And that's great for me to be able to do to others as well, just FYI. Just your community in general is such a great resource, whether it's here on YouTube or in your area. My other tip with curriculum, like I kind of already said, sell it. If you are done with it, or if you got it and it didn't work, go onto Facebook Marketplace, things like that, and go sell it. Or go into, maybe you have a co-op site or something like we do, and we're able to post on our Facebook co-op site. I just purchased, if you saw my daughter's 10th grade curriculum, it was the classical literature through sunlight, which is a very, very expensive curriculum. And I got it for a fraction of the cost because a friend of mine there sold it to me. And I already have somebody else that's like, can I buy it after that? Because we just know that it's worth it to be able to kind of sell to each other. And of course, keeping it nice and neat helps as well. Okay, number, I think 8, I don't know, I'm on 8 or 9. Budget, shop library sales. I've talked about that. I have a video on that. It said shop Facebook, utilize the library. What I love about utilizing the library is that, okay, let's say I want to buy something like this. The Big Book of Blue, right? These are pricey. They can be pricey. Like this says I don't think I spent $20, but on Amazon it's probably a few dollars less than that. But it's one of those things. That's a good spread. It's one of those things do I want to buy it? Do I want to invest that $20 or however much I think it's going to go? A lot of times what I end up doing is checking it out from the library, and then that will kind of give me an idea. Do I really want this? Do I really, might I utilize it? Or can I spend that $20 on something else? What I wish they did for games, because sometimes I buy games and I'm like, that was a lot of money for that game and it wasn't necessarily our favorite. But anywho, okay. And then budget. Research before buying what kind of curriculum it, really pay attention. You really need to research that's why I said research that learning style, research your teaching philosophies, and then see, does that curriculum fit into that mold or that model? And then sometimes through like YouTube videos, you can say, hey, I don't need the teachers, I just need the students, or I don't need the students, I just need the teachers, things like that. And you just get better with it as you continue doing it. But that is what's so great about YouTube, because all these mamas on here that are sharing, including like myself as well, we tell you, you don't necessarily say don't do it, but we'll just say I don't, because I utilize it this way. Okay, I think I'm on number 10, do group subjects. So you've heard of maybe Morning Basket, which is a way to get all of like a bunch of group subjects together across a wide range. So you could literally have a first grader and a ninth grader, and you're reading history out loud to them, or you're doing nature study or composer study, things like that. So those types of courses, of course, you're not gonna be able to do math, things like that, but you might be able to do math facts, or you might be able to do like a president's song or something like that. Like we did that this last year. My third grader and ninth grader were singing the president's song, me too, and I still have to sing it if I try to figure out where they are located in history. That's one way to do it, and there's tons of videos on there. I love Morning Basket, and when you're looking it up, you can look up group subjects, Morning Basket, morning time, circle time, which sounds more like elementary, but some mamas out here still call it that. And then some mamas will have like they make up their own fun name within their family. Okay, what I love, before I move on to the next one, if you're thinking, I don't really know if I want to do Morning Basket or group subjects, I'm going to tell you my favorite part of it. It creates a learning environment and a learning culture within your family. When you're all learning together, that bond that you're creating, it literally creates a learning culture within your family that is amazing to watch and to see and to grow. When you see your kids get excited about something and they go look it up and they show their sibling, or they come and show me, or they show their dad, it's an amazing thing to do. So I definitely would. I don't know why anybody would not do it. And even like those moms out here that you only have one kiddo, there are still families that do what they call like Morning Basket, or obviously they wouldn't be group subjects, but Morning Basket, because they kind of put it as one time frame that they go through all of the various subject matters at one time. And there's tons of videos out there on that. I think 11, don't compare your kids to other kids, because this is a big because. I need to move on because it's already 22 minutes. But number 11, don't compare your kids to others, because like your friends, people you see on YouTube, your cousins or your nephews, their cousins. It is totally not fair to them, and it's really not fair to yourself, because you'll beat yourself up, or maybe you'll be more prideful than you need to be. So don't compare to others. Just get through the day. Just get through it. Do the best you can. Now, there's nothing wrong with, when I say don't compare, that doesn't mean like if there's someone, like if you're suspecting a learning disability or something like that, that you're not like, well, all of these kids over here can do this and my kid can't, right? I mean, that's not comparing, that's making an observation. But don't sit there and compare like, well, he can do, and beat yourself up over it, because that's going to be something totally different. And I'm going to start doing a lot of videos on learning strategies with kids with disabilities. So definitely, I think I already said this, but if you haven't, so make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell so you get those. I plan on getting them. I don't want to rush it, because I don't want to give y'all, I want to get all my ducks in a row before I present it to you. And I was waiting for some stuff to come in, which came in. I did a haul video, but I didn't really go in detail. And then I'm trying to figure out if I want to do one big video or more separate videos for each kind of like dyslexia, dysgraphia, ADHD, all those executive function skills, things like that. So if you prefer it separated, let me know down below, or if you prefer it as one big video. So y'all put that down below so I can know what y'all would prefer. Okay, I think I'm on number 12. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry. if you think your child has, this goes into learning disabilities. If you think your child has a learning disability, your local school district by federal law has to test them. So just know that. I chose not to go to our school district and I went to Scottish Rite just because through word of mouth, again, in our community, when I say community, homeschool community, I heard that Scottish Rite they have actually a dyslexia school, and that's here in Texas. I don't even know if there are other Scottish Rites. Surely there are in other states, but this is specific to Texas. They have a dyslexia school, and so all of the evaluation is free. It's very in-depth evaluation, which is part of what I'm going to go over. I'm going to do a whole video on that experience that we went through, and let you know pros, cons, things like that. Okay, so I went through Scottish Rite. There might be other places local to you or in maybe a couple of hours driving range that you can get those evaluations. I will say if you go private, Scottish Rite didn't charge, but other private institutes or institutions will charge for evaluation. So just know that you might want to go through the school, but please do it. Because even as I was a high school counselor, I was a high school teacher, I was a 504 coordinator, but I was high school. My son is in 3rd grade. So they have given me strategies, and these are things I will share with y'all in a future video. They have given me strategies and things that I would have never thought to do. And it's just because you don't know that you don't know, that type of thing. And so those are the reasons why you want to get evaluated, just so you can get those strategies. You can get those modifications. You can see, why is this not working? Why is my child not working with this? Well, this is why. And so it was peace of mind on my end. I already knew he had it, but it was peace of mind on my end. And then also it was helpful because it showed me things I just wasn't doing and wasn't aware of. Okay. And I'll do a whole video on that. Absolutely. Number 13, I think, try co-ops. Okay. I keep talking about community. I'm the most introverted person. I have like my group of friends, like I can be close to them, but I am not somebody that like will go out and make friends. And it's usually just circumstance. I have a really good friend here who like literally over Facebook said, hey, I think our kids are the same age and I think we would get along. And like her and I are like best friends now. And so, but it took her doing that, not me. And so also prayer. I prayed about please bring me and my family some friends. But co-op does that. And I feel like co-op gets a bad rap on YouTube, and I'm not sure why. And I know there's going to be some co-ops out there that are not great. And there's going to be people that aren't great. And when you're dealing with, like with our co-op, I think we have 20 or 30 families. You're going to have people that don't necessarily get along. But my kids love it. They benefit from it. I benefit from it. Again, I have relationships I've built, knowledge I've gained from these other mamas that are that just know things that I just don't know yet, or vice versa. And so I will say, please, look into a co-op, look into park days. Like on my Facebook group, not mine, on where I live, we have a Facebook group and it's, XYZ park days. And just know that those are places that you can ask questions. Again, I didn't know about Scottish Rite. I was asking any of y'all know anything about dyslexia? Where did y'all get tested? Scottish Rite. Okay, I'm going to look into it. I think my child has dyslexia and I don't know what curriculum to use. We use this and it's working. So I started using it and it started working. Those types of things. Those are the things that if it wasn't for this group of people that I get to call friends and get to be a part of, it would really, I'm not sure how far along I would be in certain circumstances of our homeschool. So just think about those types of things. And then also, if you're somebody like, how can I, like with us, like me on YouTube, why do I do this? I do this because I want to be an outreach for somebody. And as with this season of my life, I can do it by potentially helping and giving ideas and things like that to you mamas and dads out there. And so maybe that is a way that you can do an outreach for like new moms, new homeschool moms. So just think about it. Okay. I will say this on the same note. Don't overcommit your first year, because I know everybody goes into it going socialization. Do you notice I didn't say that? Socialization. My daughter's an introvert. She'd be an introvert even if she was in public school. My son is, I would say, borderline. He likes being home, but he also likes, going and playing and stuff. And so I have to do my part to make sure that he is taken care of in that department, meaning he gets out and gets to see people and things like that. Play it, like I said, park days or co-op is an outlet like that for us. church. But I know so many people that burn out because they overcommit. It's like every day of the week is something outside of the home. And I would just caution that, because you can truly burn out quickly. And I've never read the book Teaching from Rest, but I feel like a lot of veteran homeschool mamas out there will discuss slowing down. Like, life doesn't have to be busy. I think of, like, when you think of like the quintessential soccer mom, you know, dropping kids off, picking them up, going to practice, eating lunch or eating dinner, doing this, you know, and it's like, when do they ever get to just stop and think? You know, it's just nonstop. And so that is just, and then I have friends who thrive doing that. So I guess, like I always say, it's just whatever works best for you and your family. My next one, and I don't even know what number I'm on, 14 maybe. Just know that you probably will, if you're like me, you will probably not necessarily overcommit. I don't know if that's the right word, but over plan on like your school year. And then you get to the end, you're like, I never even did that. It's okay. Just push it to the next year. It's okay. It's going to be there. Do it in the summer. Don't worry about it. It can, you know, again, maybe it's not something y'all were interested in. Sell it. Yes, I know that's a waste of money. That's why I say buy used when you can. Let somebody borrow it, gift it, whatever. Shelf it. That is another thing. And I should have said that with curriculum earlier, but I'm going to say this along the same lines. If something's not working for you and you think it might, then put it on the shelf and come back to it later. Because sometimes maybe your child's is not ready, whether it be maturity or ability or whatever. But so just put it to the side and come back to it, and then they are ready for it. Sorry, my AC my AC, because it's already hot in Texas, it just kicked on. So I'm sorry if you hear that. Okay, last two things. Don't beat yourself up, especially if this is your first year. And I say that, I don't care if it's your first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. Don't beat yourself up. You have to give yourself grace and give your children grace. Another reason why, if you do think you have a child that is struggling learning wise, get them tested, because it is hard on the mama or daddy, the teacher, and it's not fair to you and it's not fair to them. So you have to give each other grace, but you also need to get them, in my opinion, get them evaluated so that you have an understanding of how to help them better. But do not beat yourself up if you're like, oh my gosh, we went 2 years and I didn't know he had dyslexia. Well, practically, that's what I feel like I've just did with my son with math. So there you go. I did that. But it's okay. It's okay. We work through it. We're going to move on from it. He's going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. So don't beat yourself up. And then allow for change. I kind of touched on this more than once, I think, but allow for change, because the seasons of life ebb and flow. Circumstances come up. That is why I always tell people, what is so joyful about homeschool? Let's say tomorrow my husband comes home and says, we're going out of town next week. I need to go pick up a tractor and, you know, I have a friend doing it right now. Pick up a tractor in Kansas. We got to go out of town next week. Okay. You know, I schedule that type of stuff into where if we have to do that, then I just adapt it. We either do car schooling, maybe we only do a half a week that week, and maybe we'll do another half another week. You know, things like that. You just make it work. So just make it work. Enjoy life. Enjoy life with your kids. Enjoy life with your family. Okay, and the last thing is pray. Pray over your homeschool. I have no idea. I think it's 15 maybe, or 16. I don't know. But pray over your homeschool. Do it every morning as soon as as soon as you get into your prayer, whatever your prayer life looks like, pray for your kids. One of the things that we do is we start our day with prayer. And there's sometimes that we don't do it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can tell we haven't prayed today. And so I will gather us all in. I call my husband if I can. Sometimes he can't get away at work. Sometimes he can. And so I always will call and be like, can you pray with us, real quick? And sometimes he prays over us. Sometimes he prays with us. We pray over him and his job. We invite the Holy Spirit into our homeschool. And we just really ask for the will of God and for guidance and for help with attitudes. Because if you're anything like my family, we're not perfect. Mama needs attitude adjustment sometimes. Kids need attitude adjustment sometimes. And that is such an awesome way to show your children to have that relationship with the Lord. Because I'm not joking when I say this. Every time I pray, and I pray specific, like sometimes people, I'm not sure, I don't know, your walk with Christ and obviously where you go to church and all that, but and what you've been taught. But I've always been taught to pray very pray all the time. Like I talk to God all day and I pray all day. And it might be short little prayers. But when I pray in the morning and I ask for his help my kids get through this, help them with his reading, help her with this test today, help her with her attitude, or mama with her attitude. Help me not be idle, meaning I have a really, really bad habit of sitting on the couch and scrolling, like even if it's like on Pinterest or something like that, or YouTube videos or whatever, looking for something to, that I need to be researching. I think I just told you to research all this stuff, but you have to, like, again, schedule that time in. So, maybe after lunch when everybody's bellies are full, from 1 to 2 or whatever, schedule that time that you get to be on your iPad and research things that you want to research. But then learn, I had to pray about it and ask God, okay, to convict me and, put the phone down or put the iPad down or whatever and get your day going. Or continue getting your day going, get things done. And so I will always tell anybody that asks, pray. Pray over your children, pray over yourself, pray over your spouse, just pray over your family. And I promise you it will make your homeschool day so much better. So on that note, if you have any questions or comments, again, please, I want this homeschool chat not to be just me talking to y'all. I want y'all chatting in the comments and giving inspiration to each other and asking questions. And I don't have to just answer these questions down below. I would love for y'all, because again, I am just one person in this homeschool community, and I know y'all have so much knowledge to share. So on that note, I hope you have a super blessed day and a blessed week, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.